the first part of this lecture, we talked about the process of language production. In this second part of the lecture, I want to tell you a little bit about word recognition. Word recognition, also called lexical processing, is the process of decoding words. The process is the opposite of producing words. Now, the stimulus is the sound of the word dog, and our response is to evoke the idea that we think that is spoken about. For example, the concept of the dog. Typically, speakers do this in around 250 milliseconds, which is very, very fast considering that we each have tens of thousands of words to choose from in our mental lexicon. It is particularly impressive considering the steps necessary in word recognition. First of all, we have audition or hearing. We have to actually transform the signal into sound perceived by our brain. Then we have speech perception. That is, we have to decode the continuous speech signal, the continuous sound wave, into separate phonetic items. And finally, we have to decode the meaning, of course. To discover the inner workings of the mind while recognizing words, psycholinguists often use the technique of priming. Priming means that we show one stimulus first and then the second stimulus afterwards. And the participants of the study need to only respond to the second stimulus. The first stimulus is called the prime, and the second stimulus is called the target. Then we check whether our participants respond in a different way to the target. For example, if they are slower to respond or less accurate to respond. If the prime is related in some way. In the table, you have an example of semantic priming. The prime is a lion, which is semantically related to the target, the cat. So participants would be shown the image of a lion and then showed the image of a cat and asked to decide what it is, to either name the item or to decide something about it. We could also experiment with different primes, so the prime could be related in a different way. For example, instead of a lion, we could use a dog, which is also a pet, right? Or we could use the word animal, which is the higher category. And in this way, we can experiment with various effects and various interactions between the prime and the target. Priming studies have found that participants are in fact faster to recognize the target if the prime is semantically related. So if you see the lion and then you are asked to respond to a cat, you're going to do better than if you didn't see the lion before. Similarly, words appear easier to access if they are higher frequency, so words that are used more often, participants are better able to respond to, and words that are context related. This means that it is easier for us to recognize a word if we have just seen or heard a similar word in meaning, or if the word is related to the context in which we're in, or if the word is used often. In fact, you can even see the effects of priming in everyday natural conversation. You can try to throw in words into conversation and see if the person you're talking to is more likely to use those same words. What you will find is that very often the same words are being used by people over the course of the conversation. And we think this gives us an idea about what happens in the mental lexicon. You will remember that we said words are stored in the mental lexicon and they activate one another. So in a neutral state, you have all of your words in your mental lexicon without any activation. When you are shown a picture of a lion, this activates, of course, the word lion, which is the target, but it will also activate all the semantically related words, such as animal, cat, and dog, and the phonologically related words, such as lie and lamp. Remember, this is what we thought was responsible for making errors in production. In word recognition, this activation can actually be helpful because if you are then shown with the target stimulus cat, the word cat receives activation from the picture of a cat, but it also still receives some activation from the word lion presented right before. So before you even saw cat, the word cat was already activated from seeing a lion. That way, it's going to be accessed much faster than a completely unrelated word such as doctor. To sum up, psycholinguistic experiments give us an insight into the internal structure of the mind in both production and perception. These studies reveal the different levels of structure of language and confirm the psychological reality of the units of language that we talk about in linguistics. They also reveal the different steps needed for production and recognition of words and sentences. Thanks to psycholinguistics, we can understand how language works in the human mind.